Yes, shalom everyone. I'm Amir Tsarfati. As you can see, I'm not at Connect right now. I'm home. And there's quite a few alerts and alarms all across the country in the last few minutes. And apparently, a surface to surface missile from Yemen made it all the way to central Israel and activated everything along the coast as well as the lower plains towards Jerusalem. And we also had our share today with the rockets of Hezbollah. So I just, it's October 7th today. In just a few hours, I guess, less than 7 hours, the day's over. This is the day not only that we commemorate the most horrific atrocities that were done to the Jewish people in one day ever since the Holocaust, but also the other side wants to show his strength, his force, and the fact that he apparently is not defeated. So they really waited patiently for today to show what they can. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll start with a prayer. These are breaking news. I'll tell you everything that you need to know of the last few days and what is about to happen, according to at least what we know. So, Lord, we thank you. You are in full control. You even allowed October 7th for a reason that we one day will know. One thing we know, Lord, is that we finally woke up to understand that there are monsters around that we need not to let grow anymore, and we need to defeat them. And so, Lord, we thank you that over the past 2.5 weeks, things have completely shifted, and the people of Israel finally can breathe and see that the victory is indeed at hand. So we thank you and we bless you. And we ask that you will continue to watch over your people and watch over your land. In Yeshua's name, amen. Amen. So, shalom, everyone. I'm Amir Tsarfati. I'm here at the living room of my home here overlooking the Jezreel Valley. The reason why I didn't take the laptop outside is because of internet connection, but also it's getting loud when all the F-16s are taking off and landing, and you wouldn't hear anything anyway. But a few minutes ago, just so you know, rocket alerts almost all across central Israel. I'm talking about everything from Tel Aviv towards the airport, Ben Gurion, all the way up towards Jerusalem. And that is, of course, because of a um, rocket that Yemen launched, the Houthis in Yemen launched. And I guess we're going to have to pay a visit to Hodeidah or Sana'a in the next few days. But the rocket was intercepted, thankfully. And the reason why there is such a widespread alert, even for one rocket, it's because this is a ballistic rocket and it is intercepted very high, and pieces of the interception might fall in a very large radius. So um, we don't want anyone to get hurt. And by the way, when you hear about or when you see explosions, not in the air but on the ground, they can actually be of two reasons. One, it's the actual rocket, and the rocket has not only explosive that creates blast, but also it has little iron pellets that literally sprays all around, and they can instantly kill people. But then there is the pieces of the interceptor. They contain no explosive, but they're just a piece of metal, and when it accumulates velocity as it falls from the sky, it can hit you and kill you also. And it can hit a car and cause the engine to explode. I mean, there are reasons why they tell us to run into the bomb shelter and to stay there for 10 minutes, because 10 minutes from the moment uh, we know about the rocket, there's about a minute until the rocket gets here, and then the interceptors go and then once there's a blast, it takes a few minutes for pieces, if there are pieces of interceptor, to fall, and they might kill you. So it's October 7th, and I will lie to you if I am not heartbroken. But ever since the beginning of the war, and I kept talking about it and I kept writing about it, I believe, and hear me out all the way before you criticize me, but I believe that October 7th, as hard as it was probably the only way for Israel to wake up from two things: from the horrific inner division, and from the almost criminal neglect of the dangers that we have all around us. And again, if you remember, October 7th of last year, Hamas, in 3 different waves, is pouring into Israel thousands of terrorist gliders, by trucks, by 4x4s, by motorcycles, by Toyota pickup trucks, and they storm, and by foot, of course, and by bicycles. And they storm. At first, they opened a few places along the fence, but then when they managed to successfully paralyze everything along the border, they actually had over 200 places along the fence where they could easily walk into Israel and back to Gaza. And that allowed them not only to kill Jewish people, but also to loot and kidnap, and just some of them kidnap people into Gaza, got back to kidnap more. And that's why by the end of the day, 250 people were abducted. Some of them were already dead bodies, but yet they know that we care about that as well. So they took it, and they took them. And Israel has entered into the new phase of our nation. And our nation will never be the same. We are scarred. We have our eyes open to dangers that I knew about them, but most Israelis wanted to live their life, and they didn't care much about Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, Iranian militias. For someone who has a Telegram channel of news, obviously I'm all day long dealing with these things, but most Israelis, all they wanted is just give me some quiet time, give me, prosperity, let me live the good life. And we woke up to understand that just across the border, the enemy that we neglected and underestimated, the one that we could care less about, and the one that we thought it will never do anything big as the rest of them, that enemy surprised us. And when the eyes of the IDF were fixed on Hezbollah, it's Hamas that jumped the gun. It's Hamas that stole the thunder, and it's Hamas that performed the horrific massacre. And if you only knew 2% of what happened, I tried to convey it in some photos, even with the October 7th unfiltered video that I produced, but nothing can really convey what happened to us on that day. The atrocities, the big loads of burned bodies that we got, women that were raped, and genitals that were spread all around. They literally cut off male genitals, and women that were shot through their intimate part after they were raped multiple times, pelvises that were completely broken because of unspeakable atrocities. People that were hugging each other as they were shot in the head or burned alive. I don't want to go into details, but what happened is that basically Israel woke up that day. Nasrallah in Lebanon realized that somebody stole the thunder from him, and he felt that, okay, I need to do something. I can't let them have the glory all to themselves. And a day later, he started shooting rockets. And I'm going to pause right now and I'll tell you this, folks. Not in my wildest dreams would I ever think that Hezbollah will be completely crippled within 2.5 weeks. That's the war I dreaded the most. That's the war I was taught to fear the most. That's the war the IDF was prepared for the most. Hezbollah is 10 times stronger than Hamas. Hezbollah is trained more. Hezbollah is equipped more. Hezbollah is wealthy. Hezbollah is a political power in a sovereign country that is a member in the UN. Hezbollah has, the patron of Hezbollah is Iran, but it also has other allies. And Hezbollah has its own TV and radio, and Hezbollah has many businesses, drugs, and other things all across the globe. They generate tens of millions of dollars every day. Hezbollah is a monster. And within 2.5 weeks, ever since the beepers, the pagers, Hezbollah lost balance. And then every day we strike again and again and again and again, and we killed Nasrallah and his people, and we killed his successor and their people. They're still looking for the Brigadier General Ismail Qaani, the commander of Quds Force, the one who replaced General Soleimani that was killed by the U.S. military under the command of President Trump at that time, January of 2020. Guys, I mean, I in my wildest dreams, I would never think that 2.5 weeks into the campaign in the north, and Hezbollah will have 85% of its rockets capability damaged. 85%. This is why they need Yemen to shoot rockets towards Tel Aviv. And Iran is very, very much in trouble. And Iran launched the most, obviously, largest ballistic missile attack on Israel ever. I guess the largest ballistic missile in the history of planet Earth, regardless of Israel. And Iran is now bracing towards an Israeli response. They are so afraid that first they removed all of their oil tankers from strategic locations. Then they cleared some headquarters. They moved the president to a secure location. But now, listen to this. This is quite amazing. A couple days ago, there was a 4.6 magnitude earthquake east of Tehran. It is a place that is struck by earthquakes quite often, by the way. So today, Al Jazeera said, quoting Iranians, that it wasn't really an earthquake, it was a nuclear test. Why? They want to tell us that they already possess a nuclear weapon, so we should not strike them. That's the subtext here. So when you go that length to, have threats and excuses, you know that they are under a lot of pressure. Now, Israel has the dilemma, not only when to strike, but what to strike. We have 3 major options, actually 4. Listen to this. 1, to strike the nuclear sites. 2, to strike the oil and gas facilities that are the main income of the Iranian economy, I mean. Number 3 is the missile bases and military bases of the IRGC. And number 4 is assassinate leaders. We know how to send a single missile to one building and hit one room in that building. We know exactly how to do it. Israel has several super sophisticated cruise missiles that can do that. But Israel also possesses other rocket capabilities and strike capabilities to deal with the other things. Now, what are So these are the four options. Now, regarding the timing is a little bit problematic, and let me explain. If we go after something symbolic, it's easy. We can actually do it right now. We don't need to coordinate anything. We don't need to plan too much. You send a few F-35s above the skies of Iraq, you release some rockets, and they make their way and they hit some targets, and that's it. But if you truly want to eliminate nuclear sites and missile sites, you need the United States Air Force next to you, or at least a lot of armaments from the United States to be in your possession. And this is where we have a problem. The current administration does not, and I repeat, does not want to help Israel. It's funny because Joe Biden could have at least have one good legacy left behind him, and that's that he eliminated the Iranian nuclear program. But he wouldn't. He's too afraid. Kamala is too afraid. And Israel is now being forced to reconsider things simply based on what we have and what we can do with it. So the Minister of Defense is traveling today to the Pentagon to sit with the Secretary Austin and to see what is it that America is willing to give Israel in order to decide together what to do. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you want to go to nuclear sites that are deep under the ground, or missile cities that are dug into mountains, you need much more than the 83 tons that we dropped above Nasrallah's bunker. You need not only precision-guided missiles, but you need a lot of heavy bombs that can be carried in by specific airplanes that I'm not even sure we have. And you need to have several rounds of strikes in order to eventually make it to the place where a third wave bomb will go in and a few seconds later explode. So, I mean, several of the first wave bombs will penetrate the thickness of the soil or the mountain. And only when you have a deep enough hole, you send the next one to go in and a few seconds later explode. And that will bring the desired outcome. So the dilemma is, are we going to wait for after the elections, which means that we're losing the momentum? We don't even know who's going to win. And now it's the time that we can retaliate for something that just happened last week. So the prime minister is deliberating right now. What is it that I want to do? Because this is Bibi's hour right now. He's basically, his entire political life and career are now channeled into this very moment where he is destroying elements that were threatening Israel's existence for the last 30 years. He would not let them stay and survive. So this is what we have right now. We have a big dilemma. And I personally believe that it's not a one strike. We need to go now after the gas and oil industry and maybe kill a few of their leaders, and then tell them, if you're going to strike again, then we'll do something greater. And this will buy us more. First of all, it will give us the desired outcome that they need to fear from retaliating, but also it will buy us some time until the elections in America are over. And now I want to talk about the elections in America, because there is no starker difference. There's no amazing difference than on that issue of the Iranian nuclear sites. When Biden and Harris said, don't, and Trump said, this is what you need to destroy first and then do all the other things. I mean, the complete opposites. And so obviously for Netanyahu, waiting for Trump to win would be the smartest thing, because if Trump wins, he gets to finally put an end to the nuclear program of Iran. Now you understand that the identity of the person that sits in the White House matters a lot to Israel's existence and survival. Now I know that God will, of course, fight for us, but the timing of when is it that we're going to deal with Iran depends a lot on what's going on in Washington. And today we had two high-ranking senators that came to encourage Netanyahu, Senator Lindsey Graham and another person, I forgot his name, but Netanyahu thanked them and he said, look, this is not the Holocaust where we couldn't respond, we couldn't rise and strike back. We're a strong country now. We rise and we strike back. And then Netanyahu added, with the help of the United States, we can do it. Which signaled to me the will of Netanyahu at this point to maybe wait with the nuclear sites until he gets the US to be fully on board with Israel and just do it together. I mean, we have the reason, we have the excuse, we have the opportunity. Now, just imagine to yourself if Iran would have possessed nuclear weapon already, what would those ballistic missiles attack could look like for Israel? You can imagine. We cannot let them do that. Now, Israel is afraid that now that Iran is losing its proxies, such as Hamas and Hezbollah, and of course we can easily deal with the Houthis and the Iraqi militias, Israel is afraid that Iran will then feel like it's with its back to the wall and then immediately push towards the last phase of the nuclear weapon production. They have all the uranium they need. And so they don't even need to enrich more to already have bombs. All they need to do is to move now to the technical part of assembling things together as a bomb and then making it a warhead and attaching it to an existing rocket. So that's why we need to destroy those rockets, because the rockets are the means of transportation of any potential nuclear warhead. And so, folks, a great dilemma for Netanyahu right now. I truly hope that Israel will not hold back this time and do something that will hurt the Ayatollah's regime, and hopefully Trump will win, so at least by January we can settle the score with Iran when it comes to the nuclear site. We have the capabilities to reach Iran. We have the planes. We have our own very destructing, powerful rockets that we don't even have to use airplanes. We can just launch them from Israel. But to reach the maximum effect, you want to fly as close as possible and aim the bombs in the way and the angle and the timing that will generate the best outcome. So that's exactly the dilemma that we have right now. In Lebanon, we're working hard. We already invaded into southern Lebanon. 3 maneuvering divisions are now in southern Lebanon. And trust me, if you follow me on Telegram, you can see this QR code. You'll see that we're leveling. Those villages and towns will not stay standing. I'm telling you, all the South Lebanese Shiites that hosted and harbored Hezbollah, I don't think they'll have a house anymore. I don't think they'll be able to move back in the next few years. They're now learning what it means to basically give their home to Hezbollah to use. In Gaza, Hamas accumulated enough rockets to pay pay back or to avenge their defeat. And Hamas fired 14 rockets today. Now, let me explain. By the way, no damage, which is another thing I wanted to talk about. But Hamas fired 14 rockets at the time frame that on October 7th last year, it fired nearly 4,000 rockets. You see the difference when you maneuver inside and you take the capabilities from your enemy. And all of that thanks to the fact that we are blocking the supply from the Philadelphia corridor. And we're doing now the same with Lebanon. Now, Lebanon is a bigger country and it's bordering with Syria in the north and on the east. So Israel is busy not only fighting Hezbollah soldiers on the ground, but also fighting the smuggling attempts and destroying Iranian cargo that arrives in Syria. Some people spread some fake news that Israel bombed a Russian base in Syria. It's not the case. There is a Russian base in the airfield of Khmeimim where an Iranian plane landed an unloaded weapon, but then they moved the weapon to a storehouse outside the base, and that's the one Israel destroyed. So Israel did not destroy anything inside the base. We did not put the Russians in danger, but we definitely attacked next to it. And the Russians could see it. They tried to shoot down the Israeli missiles, but they failed. Today, another 747 cargo plane landed in Latakia. So if you hear from me about an Israeli strike in Latakia in the next few hours, you know why. This is not humanitarian aid, trust me. It's weapons. And it's weapons that is aimed for Hezbollah. So what we're doing, we're destroying the smuggling routes. We're destroying the sites where they manufacture, and we're destroying the weapon depots where they already store the weapon inside Lebanon or in Syria. So we're bombing around the clock, literally. Today, in the last couple hours, about 150 targets were destroyed within 2 hours. So we're working very hard in Lebanon. And regarding Hamas in Gaza, Israel decided to, for the first time, to push all the Gazans in northern Gaza Strip beyond the Netzarim corridor and all the way into the humanitarian area on the south. And we're cleaning northern Gaza completely. It will not be inhabited anymore. And if you've been following me on Telegram and on our Mideast update, which we will resume once things will get better over there, you will see the maps and you will understand what it's all about. I'm going to also work on, for the sake of the Telegram followers, and you can become one, I'm going to create from our maps, I'm going to create, sorry, I'm going to create some moving maps right there on Telegram, so it will educate you also. We're working hard on improving our Telegram channel because we're being suppressed on Facebook. Now, I would like to also ask you to share this video, but also share our YouTube channel as well. We really want to reach the 1 million subscribers in order to have a greater reach with the algorithm of YouTube. And that is, of course, based on exposure. So if you can share the YouTube channel, and we already have 940,000 subscribers. But again, the more we have, the more exposure we have to so many non-believers who are confused and fearful and they don't know what to do right now. But also, folks, again, October 7th, I'll go back to to what I started with. October 7th may have been the only way for us to wake up. God has allowed it. It's a fact. And looking at the fact that we're still here and we're now stronger and we're now, almost completely destroyed our enemies from the north and from the south, it is obvious to me that God had allowed it, but God has it all covered. We will never, ever truly understand the sheer evil and of people in how it's even possible. But evil exists. Evil existed already in Genesis. From chapter 3 and on, you can see murder, you can see malice, you can see sin that is introduced, but then the manifestation of the sin is getting worse and worse, all the way to the point that in chapter 6 already of the first book of the Bible, God was already sorry that he created earth and he created man. So don't be surprised that things are only getting worse, and don't be surprised when people take pleasure in killing and beheading and burning and raping. And it's not God who is doing that, it's people who are doing that, evil people. God is giving people free will, and unfortunately they are choosing the wrong thing. By the way, the Lord said to Moses, "Here I put before you, tell the children of Israel, evil and good, death and life, choose life." I mean, it's here before you. You have to choose life. You have to choose good, not evil. And so people choose evil. And thankfully, God is taking that horrific choice and at least using it for something good. And I can, although it took me time, I absolutely can see the good that came out of this evil of October 7th. I can see that. And again, I'm telling you, Israel, if we only waited a year or two, and if only Hezbollah would have started first, or would have been part of a multi-front simultaneous strike as the Iranians originally envisioned, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Thank God that of all of them around us, it was Hamas that started it and not Hezbollah. And thank God that we were able to respond in a manner that eventually pushed them back, and within 5 days, we are the ones that are attacking Gaza. It was hard. Somebody described it this way: that was the only day Israel did not have an army. The only day the army was gone, and look what happened to us. Look what happened to us. I have a lot to say about our military and where it was and what happened and how the generals were so smug and so much into political stuff, and they underestimated our enemy and they overestimated our strength, and they were just so boastful and arrogant, and they acted against the prime minister because they were very politically motivated to make sure he won't stay there in power. And so I have a lot to say about what happened. But from the moment we were attacked, I mean, I learned to put everything aside. Okay, and I said, we'll take care of everything else later. Now we need to be together. Now we need to attack, and now we need to fight. And that's what we've been doing. And there are soldiers that have been in the battlefield for almost a year now. I mean, it's amazing, the dedication. This generation, we didn't think that they're that good. We thought it's a generation of video games, it's a generation of TikTok, it's a generation of YouTube, it's a generation of, wow, folks, it's a generation of lions. It's a generation of victors. It's a generation that once in a lifespan of a nation you can find. This war is by far the longest we've had, and it's the weirdest we've had. We don't even fight armies of countries here. We fight terror organizations that are hiding behind civilian population above the ground and under the ground. No country has ever been engaged in a war like that, ever. We are the barrier before all of this will come to the Western world. We are the shield for the Western world. F-16s taking off right now next to us. And so we're fighting that fight, and we don't care if people hate us or love us, if the French government or the president is going to give us weapon or not. We really don't care. The Israelis changed their hard disk. This is it. We understand it's a fight for our life. We get it. They want to kill us. They don't want to live next to us. They want to live instead of us. Do you hear them? And we're ready to go. We're ready to go. So, in the next few days, you're going to hear about some big things related to Israel dealing with Iran. Israel is dealing with even Syria. Hear me out. You're going to be surprised. Maybe the way for us to reach Iran is actually via Syria. And remember, all of this has been already foretold and foreseen, and the Bible believers should not be surprised. We need to know that Iran will eventually be defeated now in order to then not trust its proxies to destroy us, but trust a bigger, stronger coalition to do that job. And when that bigger and stronger coalition consisted of Russia, Turkey, Iran, and others from Africa will come, it's not going to be the IDF. It's not going to be Netanyahu. It's not going to be some military general. It's going to be the Lord of hosts, the commander of the armies of heaven. The Lord himself will fight. It's going to be a supernatural victory that God is going to win for us, and the people of Israel will be astonished. Astonished, but then the enemy will use it to deceive them, because they will think, wow, these are messianic periods. Wow, these are supernatural victories that we are experiencing here. And they will be longing for the Messiah, and before you know it, a world leader will rise and they will think he's the Messiah. They will sign a deal with him. He will allow them to build a temple. And only when he will walk in and demand to be worshipped as God, there will be enough Jews that will say, that's not going to happen. We don't think that you're God. And this is when the latter part of tribulation begin. God will keep a place for them in the desert for the last 3.5 years. And eventually, at the very end, Jesus will come and Israel will be saved as a nation. So we know what's going to happen. I'm watching things unfolding. I know we're going to defeat them right now. I know Iran will not lean on its proxies anymore. I know we're going to make them sorry for what they did. And I know that they will wait patiently for Russia to make a move. And Russia cannot make a move until America and Europe are weak enough to allow Russia to make that move. So there's a lot to expect, a lot that is going to happen. But remember, for those of you who think, okay, if America has to be out of the game, so maybe Kamala is going to win and we're done and all that. Maybe, but remember one thing: Israel has to be strong and safe and secure and prosperous for Ezekiel's war to start. And for that, I expect peace and prosperity to come after this war, and that can only come if there is someone who can broker a deal for us with Saudi Arabia and make some peaceful times here in the area. So I'm just thinking it could be very nice for us if Trump won, we destroy the nuclear sites, and Saudi Arabia then will say, okay, we're in. Where do we sign on a normalization deal? A lot of good stuff is ahead, but with the good comes a lot of pain and sorrow to see soldiers falling and rockets falling and injuring people. And this is the last thing I want to say, and it will be done. And this is the most important thing. So don't run away. If you take all the rockets that fell on Israel since the beginning, and you take all the ballistic missiles that fell on Israel from Iran also twice, and you accumulate all of their power to kill, and then you see how many Israelis were killed from rockets, it doesn't even make sense. Just like the birth of Israel didn't make sense to people, the survival of Israel doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. What makes sense is the fact that prayers work. The effective and fervent prayer of the righteous avails much. The prayers are fervent and the prayers are effective, and we see the results. More than weapons from France or from America or from England or from Germany, we need prayer warriors. And this is where you play an amazing job. I'm called to tell you that your prayers are more effective than weapons that America can give Israel, than weapons that France or Germany or England can give Israel. This is it, folks. And so I'm asking you not ever to think that when 2 or 3 meet together and pray, don't ever think that it is not powerful. It is. It's very powerful. So thank you.